is the Big 12. Welcome to the voice of college football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. That's the aim, that's the goal, that's the mission, and you guys make it happen. So please like the video, share these videos out on social media, and subscribe right here at the voice of college football. Pick out your favorite team. If they're back here or otherwise, we probably have a team channel for you, and Big 12 fans in particular, Oklahoma and Texas channels. All right. Check out our conference rankings, our latest edition to see our rankings of the conferences 1 through 5. Keep in mind that the Big 12 is coming off a win. Baylor over BYU, a nice little 2-touchdown win for the Bears and the Big 12 to raise the record out of conference to 24-6, depending on how you rate BYU as a Power 5/Group of 5. The Big 12 4-4 against the other 4 conferences. All right, let's look at the Big 12 itself now that we're in conference play. And let's take it from the bottom. That's an easy choice to make, as it always is, seemingly for the past decade plus. Kansas, awful, 1-5, 0-3 in the conference. And the Jayhawks, after that win against South Dakota, 17-14, well, they have just been annihilated by everybody else. They are next to last in the nation in defensive points given up per game, and also number 126 in the nation in yards given up per game. It's another Kansas year with Lance Leopold hopefully doing better things and building a program there in Lawrence. Up to number 9 in a significant jump. So Kansas is worst in the Power 5. Jump up to West Virginia. I expected the Mountaineers to be much better than this under Neil Brown this season. 2-4, 0-3 in the Big 12. They've got the highs of holding Virginia Tech out of the end zone with a big goal line stand at the end of the game to preserve that win over a decent Hokies team, 27-21. And then also they played Oklahoma on the road down to the wire, losing in the last-second field goal, 16-13. Otherwise, not looking good in recent weeks. Again, 3 consecutive losses in the Big 12. Jared Deggy, marginal quarterback, 8 touchdowns, 5 picks, and Letty Brown's a really good back, but not getting the offensive line push that he needs at 4.4 yards per carry. West Virginia with a game coming up against TCU on the road this Saturday. All right, at number 8, we've got Kansas State, another 0-3 team in the Big 12. K-State got off to the great start against Stanford, had the Cardinals shut out until just seconds left in the game and dominated that game against Stanford 24-7. But little to brag about in the Big 12 play. They're just good enough to kind of hang in the game against the likes of Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma. But again, 0-3, but the schedule lightens up considerably for the Wildcats as they take on Texas Tech in Lubbock coming up Saturday. All right, at number 7, we got Texas Tech. Red Raiders look good on paper in terms of record at 5-2, 2-2 in the conference. They have a nice win against Houston, 38-21. Other than that, though, a couple blowout, embarrassing losses against TCU and gave up 70-7-0 against Texas. Texas Tech, of course, settled on Henry Colombi as the quarterback over Tyler Shough, the transfer from Oregon, and Texas Tech takes on Kansas State this weekend to kind of gain some separation possibly in the standings there. At number 6, TCU. 3-3, 1-2 in the conference, and not as good a football team as I anticipated and expected this season. TCU's got a date against West Virginia this week. The Horned Frogs, with a proud defensive tradition under Gary Patterson, are now number 106 in the nation in yards given up, number 112 in the nation in points given up per game. Coming off that 52-31 game against OU, they were dissected by Casey Thompson in Texas and Bijan Robinson, of course, and just not getting the job done. TCU's our number 6 team. No Zach Evans this past game against Oklahoma. We'll see his status coming up this weekend. Texas, number 5, close to being number 1. Let's rewind 10 or 11 days, go to halftime of the Oklahoma game, and it appeared as though Texas was about to take over the number 1 position in the Big 12. Here we are 10 or 11 days later, and they played 2 really good first halves against Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, but faltered in the second half both times. Casey Thompson with a rough game against Oklahoma State this past weekend. The rush defense was awful in the second half, and Texas blew a lead, losing 32-24 in that one. The offensive line has been atrocious. Texas, with a bye week at 2-2 in the Big 12, they've most likely have to win out because, again, the tiebreakers do not favor them up top at the top of the standings. Got to win out to get to the Big 12 championship game in Sark's first season. At number 4, we've got Iowa State. The Cyclones, much expected in the preseason as a top 10 preseason team that lost in week 2 after a lackluster performance against Northern Iowa, winning by 6, and then they lose to Iowa. And basically the Cyclones have dropped off the national map. But they do stand at 4-2, 2-1 in the conference. And Breece Hall's having another heck of a season. He's coming off a 197-yard performance against K-State, 11 touchdowns this year. Again, 2 early season losses off the radar, but Iowa State in position to make a run for the Big 12 championship game. As is Baylor at number 3. Baylor with a bye week this week and then a key date taking on Texas in Waco next week. Baylor's at 6-1, coming off an impressive showing against BYU 38-24. Of course, we've got Abram Smith had 188 rushing yards in that game, and the defense really shut down one of the better backs in college football, Tyler Algier, to 15 carries for 33 yards. So the Baylor defense getting the job done, 3-1 in the Big 12. Now our top 2, and I believe the number 2 team is actually outplaying the number 1 team, and it's been more consistent this year, but we're looking at trajectory as well, also looking at talent. Oklahoma State playing some good football, especially on the ground game on offense and the defense, not necessarily the passing game. 6-0, 3-0 in the Big 12 with an impressive, from the standpoint of a quality opponent, not an impressive game, 21-20 over Boise State outside the conference. Oklahoma State pretty much, other than OU, a front-loaded schedule in which they've already gotten past Baylor and Texas at this point. They've got Iowa State, huge game coming up in the Big 12 this weekend, maybe the biggest game in the country. Oklahoma State at Iowa State, and the Cowboys are a 7.5-point underdog in that game. Again, it's 6-0, top 10 in the nation. And then, of course, the number 1 team in the conference has not played like the number 1 team in the conference most of the season with Spencer Rattler at quarterback. But now catching their stride with Caleb Williams at the controls, with that just prolific offensive production in the second half against Texas, and then another one, 52 points on the board against TCU, winning by 3 touchdowns. Defensive back issues, injuries in the secondary could cost them a game possibly, but OU, after coming oh so close to an L in the win-loss column to Nebraska, West Virginia, Tulane, and others, stands at 7-0 and the number 1 team in the Big 12. Going to Lawrence, Kansas to take on the Jayhawks, so a bit of a bye week for OU before they continue down the stretch in the Big 12. My Big 12 stacks up like this. Oklahoma number 1, Oklahoma State number 2. Those are 2 undefeated teams, of course. Then we've got Baylor at 3, Iowa State at 4, Texas at 5, TCU at 6, Texas Tech at 7. Then a couple of 0-3 teams at Kansas State and West Virginia, and Kansas is clearly the worst team, not only in the Big 12, but in the Power 5. Your thoughts about the Big 12 right here in the comments section. Please like, comment, share the videos out on social media. Grab that Amazon link. Christmas is coming. Grab the Amazon link. Use it to help us grow the channel. It's the same shopping experience for you. It doesn't cost you a penny. Please use the Amazon link when you do your shopping right here at the Voice of College Football. See you next time.